Good morning to you all. Welcome to Shattering Myths. I am Yahowah. This program is devoted to those of you who have come to realize, as I have, that all of the world's religious, political, economic, and military institutions are corrupt, that they are counterproductive, and that they cannot be fixed. Our number, anytime over the next 2 hours, you want to join us, toll-free, 877-376-45. Scott has promised to pay for your phone call. There is a lot going on in the news today. The first story comes out of our prisons. A former U.S. Marine who, according to this article, quote, became a Muslim radical, a gang leader and bodyguard, and it was to the blind sheikh in the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. That would be Rahman was the blind sheikh's name. He was indirectly involved in the World Trade Center bombing. The man that was directly involved was Ramzi Youssef. Sheikh Rahman, though, is an interesting character because he was ruled not guilty by the Egyptian Supreme Court of inspiring and orchestrating the murder of Anwar Sadat, the assassination of Anwar Sadat. And his defense was, yeah, I did it. But no one in these judges can convict me because what I did was in absolute accord with the Quran. And since I was following Allah's orders in killing him, for anyone to convict me, they would have to disobey Allah's orders and to be in conflict with the Quran, which means they in turn would have to be killed. So he was exonerated of a murder that he confessed to have done, arranged for, on the basis of the Quran ordered him to kill Sadat because Sadat formed a peace treaty with the dreaded Jews. Now, what's really amazing about that story is that Rahman was then given asylum in the United States. Can you imagine that? Here's the admitted assassin of the leader of Egypt, with whom Jimmy Carter arranged to have the Camp David peace talks with, where America bribed Egypt by forcing Israel to relinquish the Sinai, which they had captured in that war, and by paying Egypt $2 to $3 billion a year in military hardware, so that the dictatorship imposed by Sadat and Mubarak after him, and now by the present junta, Sisi, would be draconian. So it would be impossible for the people ever to have any democracy, since we provided all of the weapons for the military dictatorship. And yet, the man who arranged for him to be assassinated, Anwar Sadat, was given asylum in America. That's how unbelievably stupid our State Department is. And so what did he do when he came to America? He worked with Ramzi Youssef to conduct the first bombing of the World Trade Center, where, the van loaded with explosives, just like Oklahoma City, was supposed to bring down the building. And so this fellow that we're talking about now, that they call a radical Muslim, wasn't a radical at all. He was a fundamentalist. He was someone who learned to be a Muslim from one of the most respected Muslims in the world, Sheikh Rahman. And now, and what's interesting too is that prior to being a Muslim, he was a U.S. Marine. But, there really is a lot of commonality, by the way, in the mindset of a Marine and a fundamentalist Muslim. Both are trained to kill. Both are indoctrinated to hate everyone who is seen as a foe. Both are ruthless when it comes to killing. I was driving behind a car yesterday in Ohio, where the driver, long time, had to have been retired, but he was still so into his time in the Marines that he had U.S. Marine stickers everywhere in his car, and then the big sign on his car that he was a Marine devil dog. Now, in Islam, Allah is modeled after Satan. A lot in common, but here's the way the story goes. That this guy became the bodyguard to the blind sheik, Rahman, who was behind, actually was a co-conspirator, if you will, in the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. So, and he became so adept at turning fellow prisoners into potential extreme jihadists. Now, extreme jihadist. I mean, I understand that we're using this term extremist now as if extremist meant terrorist. But extremist jihadist? I mean, come on. That's like saying a dark black. Extremist jihadist. That Florida prison officials have kept him shackled and in solitary confinement for the last 3 years. And federal authorities want a judge to tack on another 3 decades. Why? Because he is preaching Islam. Marcus Dwayne Robertson, a Muslim extremist, also known as Imam Abu Tabah, who once led a murderous New York gang of Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves. You can't make this stuff up. Before resurfacing decades later as a radical imam at a Florida mosque. So, Alibaba and the 40 Thieves, a murderous New York gang. The leader became an imam at a Florida mosque. And we wonder what's wrong with Islam. It has been held at the Polk Correctional Facility in Seminole County. Currently imprisoned on a weapons conviction, he faces sentencing on June 26 for tax fraud. Federal authorities want him locked up and kept away from other inmates. Out of fear, he will turn them into dangerous jihadists. Dangerous jihadists again. It's like saying blood red. Has there ever been a non-dangerous jihadist? I mean, we now have dangerous and extremist jihadists. Okay, well, so much for political correctness. As he has converted a number of fellow inmates, including a white supremacist. Why not? I mean, if you're in jail for rape, Islam's the perfect religion. Muhammad was a rapist. And the Quran condones sex with slaves. It condones rape. Let's say you're a pedophile and you're in prison. Perfect. Muhammad was a pedophile. So in Sharia law, in Islamic law, it's okie dokie to be a pedophile. Let's say you're in prison for kidnapping. No problem. Islam is your religion. Kidnapping is lawful and good. Say you're in prison for embezzlement. Islam's just right for you because Islam was founded as an organized crime syndicate. Let's say you're in prison for murder. No problem. Allah orders you to kill. The only guaranteed place in the Islamic paradise is for those who kill for Allah. I mean, let's say you're in for bearing false witness, that you perjured yourself. No problem. The Quran has a surah that says that agreements between Muslim and non-Muslims are not binding on the Muslim. I mean, no matter what you're in jail for, no matter your violation of morality, or let's just go with the 10 statements that Yahowah etched in stone, let's say that even though it's not a criminal offense in America, that it's a moral offense and that you committed adultery. No problem. You not only can have 4 wives in Islam, but the 4th slot can be a rotating slot. So that, whoever you're with is the 4th wife. That enables them to engage in prostitution and also in rape. And, if you do commit rape, no problem, because rather than you being convicted, you're exonerated. And the woman that you raped, if you don't kill her, the authorities will kill her. How could you have a better religion? And you wonder why they're having success in prison? Well, anyway, that's the latest from the news on the U.S. Marine who became a Muslim radical, gang leader and bodyguard, an extremist jihadist, and a violent jihadist, as well as imam, which means pastor, priest in Islam. This is really funny, among social conservatives who are, according to this article, a powerful force within the Republican Party, there is a dark view to be taken from the Caitlyn Jenner episode. Remember Bruce Jenner, the decathlon Olympic winner back so many decades ago, turned into a reality show superstar with the Kardashians, and now claiming Vogue cover shots in lingerie as a woman. Caitlyn Jenner is a real threat, evidently, to social conservatives. Now, from my point of view, I don't much care. The man is screwed up. The man has got a thirst for publicity. Obviously, his life is meaningless, and he is stunningly insecure, and he is just craves attention, which is why he's doing this. And my view would be give him no attention. But according to the it was Vanity Fair cover, according to social conservatives, he is a real threat to their way of life. Now, when we return to Shattering Myths, we'll talk about what William J. Bennett had to say. I know old Bill, and we'll talk about his view of Caitlyn Jenner. Welcome back to Shattering Myths. Yes, the conservatives think that they are, as a result of Caitlyn's exposure in Vanity Fair, are losing the culture war. So we now have another war. It's the culture wars. Across social media, blogs, and talk radio this week, conservatives painted an apocalyptic view of America. Now, the apocalypse and a dude wearing lingerie is, I have a tough time. I mean, I'm a connector. I just love to connect the dots and say, okay, these things are related. This leads to this. This is the consequence. But a dude dressed up in lingerie and the signs of the apocalypse, I gotta tell you, I don't see the connection. The apocalypse. We're dealing with the tribulation here, and there's going to be famine. I don't see any famine here. There's going to be pestilence. I don't see any pestilence here. There's going to be earthquakes and tsunamis and hurricanes and tornadoes. I don't see any of that here. There's going to be an increasing amount of terrorism around the world.
Death.
I don't see that here. There's going to be a lot of war going on, world wars. I don't see a lot of that here.
It's the fifth horseman. It's by the prophet Aerosmith.
So we got the 4 horsemen. We got famine. We have pestilence. We have death. But now what you're telling me we have another horseman?
Yeah, by the prophet Aerosmith. Dude looks like a lady.
I guess the conservatives, the social conservatives, have their BBDs all in a pinch. They said they felt frustrated and increasingly isolated by the country's sudden recognition and even embrace of transgender people. You know what percentage of the population is transgender? I don't even need to look
I'm going to guess. I'm going to guess it's going to be less than a percent. I will guess that it's less than 1%.
I will tell you that it's less than 1/10%. I mean, if you're threatened by a dude wearing a dress, you've got a problem here. Dude in dress is not threatening.
It's such a weird thing to get. It's such a weird thing to get in a tizzy over. Honestly,
agreed.
it should be a who cares. Who cares?
If I wasn't married, but this dude is ugly. But let's say that you and I weren't married, and we went out to a bar because we wanted to meet girls. And you saunter up to this girl and Caitlyn's got really pretty hair, but not attractive other than that. And you saunter up to Caitlyn and you say, why don't we go to my place? And you find that Caitlin's equipped with the same outdoor plumbing that you have. Now that would be traumatic. I don't think
I'd react to
that would be cool.
I don't think I'd react to that.
I would not react to that.
But at the same time,
yes,
there's going to be things that before that before you get to that point, there's going to be things that you can pick up on. One,
but like Caitlyn had to shave this morning. Caitlyn's voice is deeper than your own. And by the way, and Caitlyn, to Bruce's credit, Bruce Caitlyn does not claim to be homosexual. He is a heterosexual man-woman. Okay. So, okay, they see it as immoral and foreign. Well, it is odd. I didn't read anything in the Torah about cross-dressing, so I'm not sure that it's a big deal. But they drew comparisons to two grimly futuristic novels, George Orwell's 1984 and Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. I want to tell you, if cross-dressing is your take on Orwell's 1984 and Huxley's Brave New World, if that's where you come out after reading those books that you ought to be concerned about, oh my God. You have a fixation on things that are not germane to the plot of the story. It's about how societies ultimately control people and how they ultimately use propaganda to deprive people of their free will, to condition people, to indoctrinate people. They are incredibly powerful stories because we see their effects throughout our society. But not related to cross-dressing dude. People feel like they're under siege. Oh my God, this is scary. In terms of the debate, you're either applauded or you're a bigot, said William Bennett, Education Secretary in the Reagan administration. We'll talk about Big Bill when we return to Shattering Myths. He's another one of these characters. But actually, no. Not that it should matter to anyone that listens, but I think many of you who have listened to the show for a long time know that I have my eldest son and his wife were expecting our first grandchild, and they live in the Ohio area, and that we've been trying to sell our California home and then buy a second home in Ohio so we can enjoy being grandparents. And it appears that we have finally succeeded, and we have a home that we bought yesterday in Ohio that my wife and I like a great deal, and we're looking forward to it making its way through the inspection process and closing it as soon as possible. And so that is exciting news for us, and also I've been looking forward to getting back into flying with an airplane, and it looks like that is about to come to fruition. I have an ATP pilot, airline transport pilot certificate, type-rated in jets. Have owned my own jets, but this is a turboprop that I'm attempting to purchase. In fact, during the break, I was talking to the gentleman that will be coordinating the inspection, the pre-purchase inspection of that aircraft, so that I can fly from our farm here in Virginia to Ohio, and it's a very long drive, about a 9.5, 10-hour drive, and this you can fly back and forth in about an hour. So makes the whole process of being a grandparent so much more enjoyable. So that's what I've been doing over the weekends, and we've made some progress, looking like we're going to prevail on both fronts. Anyway, I told you William Bennett. William Bennett was on the board of directors of my last business, so that's how I got to know Bill. And Bill's a pretty bright guy. Cultural education, conservative values would be Bill's thing. He's a favorite in the evangelical Christian community. And Bill said, people feel like they're under siege, and that the terms of the debate now are that you either applaud it or you're labeled a bigot, said William Bennett, Education Secretary. It's like American culture is being dragged kicking and screaming, and not only toward acceptance, but approval. And I'm going to applaud Bill here. That's my issue, too. I don't care. I mean, I really do not care that Caitlyn is bruise and drag. I don't care. I don't care if the percentage of homosexual the population in America increases from 1% to 2%. Don't care. I don't care if homosexuals get married. Don't care. I don't care that the increase in bisexuality in America, particularly amongst women, has now reached into the double digits. Doesn't bother me. Do not care. By the way, that beep beep beeping is unfortunately one of our farm tractors, and why they would pull it up? No, it isn't. No, they wouldn't. Or one of the gang that works on our farm would not do that to us during the middle of the show. It is the Tiger fuel truck that is filling up our diesel tank. We have gas and diesel here on the farm, so that we can fill up our farm equipment, and they were backing into position. I'm going to be asphyxiated here, I think, with diesel.
I'm going to go a step further than you. Everything that he's saying, I agree with what he's saying, except for he's fighting for the wrong thing. Yes. I don't care about American culture. I don't care.
Good for you.
So he's fighting for
We're saying the same thing. We don't care about American culture. We do not care what percentage of people are homosexual. We don't care that they are homosexual. We don't care that if they're transgender.
I do agree with what he is saying, because if you are against something, they label you as you're phobic of that thing.
Right.
And you don't have to accept everything everybody does.
Correct.
There's things that shouldn't be accepted.
Correct. No, precisely. And that is the issue with both of us, is that we don't want to be put in a position. For example, I do not like the politicalization of homosexuality, where in schools, in universities, you cannot even discuss that which is abnormal. Homosexuality at best is 2% of society. That makes it extremely abnormal. And yet in universities and in the media, if you discuss it as abnormal, and that there are consequences of elevating it to something that should be not only accepted but celebrated, then if you take a view that it should not be celebrated, it should not be viewed as normal, then you are labeled a phobe of these things, and you are labeled a bigot. And yet what you're talking about is irrefutably true, but it's just not tolerated anymore. And so you're either, like in school, both of my sons were conditioned in school, indoctrinated on the basis of any discussion about homosexuality other than complete and total acceptance of it, approval of it, was considered unenlightened and inappropriate.
They've forgotten what tolerance means.
Correct.
They've forgotten completely what tolerance means. Tolerance doesn't mean I accept it. Tolerance means that...
Or respect it.
Or respect it. Tolerance, the exact definition is the ability or willingness to tolerate something, in particular the existence of opinions or behavior that one does not necessarily agree with.
Right.
There's a lot of things that I can tolerate. I can tolerate a lot of things.
Yeah, I tolerate homosexuality, for example. I tolerate transgender. I have hired many people that I knew were homosexual. I have never had the opportunity to judge somebody whether or not they should be hired that was transgender. It's just too rare. But homosexuals have never withheld an employment opportunity if they were qualified, and never view anybody because of their sexual orientation differently. Now, if it is their driving force, if promoting it to force you to accept it as and respect it drives them, then I don't even want to be around them. I do not like having something that should be a private decision become a political mantra. Do what you want to do, just do it privately. I'm not going to take my wife to a restaurant and start making out with her at the table. I don't want to see you do it either. And I'm not going to go and do a march in favor of heterosexuality. You ought not to have a march in favor of homosexuality.
And plus, who you're attracted to should really have no bearing on what kind of who you are as a person. I mean, like you said, you've had gay employees, but that doesn't matter. Like
doesn't matter to me.
Them being gay doesn't matter at all.
No,
because they're getting the merit on who they are as a person, and not who they're attracted to.
Right. No, I don't accept it in the sense of condoning it. I don't respect it. I don't agree with it. But the fact that I don't accept it, the fact that I don't condone it, the fact that I don't understand it or agree with it, and that I think that a man having sex with another man is physically is creepy to me. That
mind-boggling.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling to me. The fact is that what they choose to do is just fine with me, so long as it's their choice behind closed doors. I don't care. But I won't understand it, and I don't want to be compelled to embrace it as something that's good. I don't see it as good. But it should never be an impediment to them living their lives as they wish to live them. That said, on this program, we do our best to adhere to Yahowah's point of view. And Yahowah has very little to say about homosexuality, and he has nothing to say about transgender, Caitlyn's and Bruce's. And homosexuality is way, way, way down on Yahowah's things to be concerned about. It is so far down on the list of things to be concerned about that we very seldom concern ourselves with it. Now, Yahowah is not fond of it. That's just the bottom line here, and he's not fond of it because he has created a family-oriented covenant where men and women come together as mother and father, husband and wife, in a faithful marriage relationship to conceive and raise children, because it is akin to his covenant, the set-apart spirit and our Heavenly Father, working in concert to enlighten and raise and educate and nurture us. So that's his model. He doesn't like it when we corrupt his model. But, the covenant is a choice, too. If somebody chooses not to be part of the covenant, I'm fine with that.
I was just going to say, he gives you a choice. He doesn't. You're not going to be punished,
Nope.
you're not going to be punished for it. But you can't be part of the covenant.
Correct.
It's a choice. You make the choice.
Right.
And
now, he doesn't say, I'm not aware of any places where he says if you have committed adultery, you can't be part of the covenant. I don't know of any place he said if you committed homosexuality, you can't be part of the covenant. I don't recall any place he said where he draws a line in the sand and say, if you've done these things, you can't be part of the covenant. Now, there is one thing that if you do on an ongoing basis and you continue to do, that would preclude you from being part of the covenant, and that is misleading people by diminishing the importance of Yahowah's name and by promoting and accepting that which leads to the dissipation of souls. But I did that, and I'm a member of the covenant, because did in past tense. I stopped doing it. The instruction is written in the imperfect, which means it's only the ongoing behavior in this regard that would be unforgivable. The moment you stop, you're no longer in violation of that clause of the 10 statements of the eye etched in stone. So that's entirely possible. I suspect that someone who is homosexual could be as part of the covenant. Doesn't mean that God likes it. Yeah, goodness gracious. That's from Steven Tyler and Aerosmith. Who was that that he wrote it about? Allegedly, Scott? Was it some
Allegedly,
other band,
he wrote it about
leader?
Vince Neil of Motley Crue.
Okay.
That's what I heard. So.
Okay, dude looks like a lady. All right, well, the great prophet, Bill Bennett, I guess you're now going to have to go after Aerosmith, too. This is an interesting story. It would normally just be a toss-away story, but it reads that it begins. It said, the family of a career Navy sailor killed last week in an alleged road rage incident in San Diego is reeling Monday from their losses. Their alleged killer was charged with murder. It's just a huge loss to the country, to his family, to his friends, said Kathy Kramer, the mother of one of U.S. Navy Chief Petty Officer Zachary Boob's friends. Yes, it's Boob, B-U-O-B, Boob's friends. Can you imagine being career military and your rank is Chief Petty Officer? I mean, Boob was not exactly the pillar of the U.S. Naval Forces. Now, this is what's interesting. It is a hilarious last name. The Chief Petty Officer Boob. Police say that Darla Jackson, 24, of Imperial City, ran Boob down, knocked him off his motorcycle, and then drove over him on Thursday during rush hour. Boob, 39. He's 39 years old, and he's still the Chief Petty Officer of Santee, California. Died hours later at the local hospital. The two got into a tussle, an argument, as both drove on the I-5 freeway in Chula Vista, near San Diego. Highway Patrol spokesman Jackson said. Jackson, who was the woman, was driving a black Nissan Altima, and she ran the Boob's red Ducati. You know, red Ducati is like saying blood red. Aren't all Ducatis red? I mean, and if you're riding a Ducati, you almost have a death wish. I mean, you're riding a Ducati, super fast racing bike, where you're kind of leaned down over the handlebars on the street. You got a death wish. I mean, we're not talking about touring in a Harley Davidson. We're talking about a red Ducati. Anyway, this woman and Petty Officer Boob got into an altercation, and then she ran him over. Actually knocked him off his bike and then ran her over. Boob, 39 again, was assigned to the Naval Special Warfare Command and had been in the Navy for approximately 20 years, raising all the way up to the rank of Chief Petty Officer. Okay, Jackson was booked into jail and being held without bond. The woman said that her daughter, a mother of a 3-year-old, was the victim because the motorcyclist was driving erratically. Now, the reason this struck me is that the LA Times has been doing a series on the great chasm now that has developed between the U.S. military and civilians. And the last story I read, it just fits into this. There were a bunch of vets who wanted to re-up and go back in the military because they found civilian life boring. That the adrenaline rush they got from the hunt and the kill, where they were hunting humans and killing humans, there was nothing in society that compared to it. So they were broken in pieces. One of their guys broken in pieces because of an improvised explosive device in Iraq or Afghanistan. I think Iraq, but and that all of these guys were on medicated up the wazoo with drugs because of post-traumatic stress syndrome. And they were all marching in a parade in honor of a guy that was a double amputee from one of these explosions. And all drunk as a skunk. They were all alcoholics, all involved in illicit drugs, mostly cocaine. And their comments were all extraordinarily belligerent. They say, let's hope that one of these civilians crosses our path. Wouldn't we just love to tango with some civilians? I brought my knife. And they distinguished themselves, even though they were no longer in the military.